In the world of Last Exile, two young teenagers discover their destiny. Just reeks of cliches saying it, but before you go thinking this is your typical run-of-the-mill steampunk anime, you should know that with every cliche and every overused concept, Last Exile also reeks of brilliance. From the character to the art, all the way down to the notably subtle delivery of the unfolding story, there's an unusual sense of maturity in the air of this series. No fan service, no gratuitous action sequences, just good old-fashioned fantasy storytelling on a high level. One thing that can be said about the animation and design is that nothing is ever too clean. There's, throughout the majority of the show's running time, a distinct feeling that the environment the characters inhabit is real. The older airships have the level of rust and grime that you would come to expect from such a craft, while the more top-of-the-line ships, particularly some of the crafts shown off near the end of the series, which are really badass by the way, they have a more abstract feel, almost angelic kind of feeling to them. The character designs feel well-rounded as well, dodging many of the exaggerations that seem to be consistently ensnaring Japanese character designers. The characters still have a nice anime vibe to them, but they aren't so overblown that you can't connect to them as real people. The characters mesh perfectly with their world, which is far more than can be said for your average production. The art perfectly complements the personality and heart of the piece. The visuals of Last Exile give an unspoken layer and depth to a fictional universe that feels both fresh and familiar all at once. There's no denying that this story, even if it is exceptionally well told, has been told many times before. There's nothing in Last Exile that is particularly surprising. The plot develops, and there are a few little treats and surprises along the way, but by the show's conclusion, don't be too surprised if many comparisons will be made between Last Exile and the original Star Wars films, which are, in and of themselves, a tribute to the classic mythologies of old, but that's completely besides the point. A young man finds himself caught in a great conflict between an overbearing power and those that were brave enough to rebel against the power. The familiarity doesn't downplay the story's arc, nor the major players who allow the story to unfold. It is just something to be aware of. If Studio Gonzo, the studio responsible for the production of Last Exile, had thrown in more twists and kinks to the formula, the anime could have developed into something truly spectacular. There are points where one could be led to believe that something much deeper and something much richer will eventually develop from the show's mythology, but instead, you just get a spectacularly directed series with believable characters that just falls short of being a real work of genius. The two Von ship pilots, who are the primary focus for the first several episodes, end up falling into circumstances that are much bigger than they are, go figure. Lavi and Klaus are orphans who have to make a life for themselves as pilots, taking on insurmountable odds by taking on missions. Once they pick up a mission that plummets them into the middle of a battlefield between two waging nations, things begin to get more and more complicated as their simple lives become more and more complicated. There are many characters that Lavi and Klaus encounter throughout their arc, and the series begins to become more of an ensemble piece than a singular story. There are numerous side characters, each with their own goals and ambitions. By the end, each story runs its course, whether for better or for worse, so there is no reason to get worried about a favorite character fading out of the picture. There is an intentional effort on the part of the creators to at least interject a character moment in each episode that really tells the viewer what is going on with each individual, which helps keep the show balanced and engaging. The Vanship air battles, using a hit-or-miss mix of CG and traditional animation, are hugely successful in delivering on that sense of speed and adrenaline that only some of us can really dream of experiencing when in the cockpit of an aircraft. There's a genuine feeling of freedom and opportunity when Lavi and Klaus fly through the air in their Von ship, and it's a feeling that, despite the conflict and turmoil closing in about them, resurfaces every time you see them in flight for the entirety of Last Exile. This perfectly complements the show's main theme, which is that freedom is worth fighting for, even if it seems pointless to try. You care for these characters, and you want to see them through this. We've seen this all before, but when it is done as well as it is done in Last Exile, who really cares? I have to give this an 8.5 out of 10. It's most certainly an excellent anime. The only reason I'm not giving this a 9 is that you can't help but feel when you're watching the show that something is missing, that maybe there's some key element that they weren't able to animate because of budget or because of time constraints, that there was something more to this. By the time you get to the end, you're sort of left hanging there going, well, it was good, it was a well-told story, it was great, but there was nothing mind-blowing. And just because this anime is so well told, you expect something really mind-blowing and really emotional at the end, and you get a little bit of emotion, you get conclusion, but nothing like how, at least this critic expected it. Alright guys, this is the end of this particular review, and next week, or whenever I do the next review, I'm going to be diving into Exile Saga. I want to open up a new segment for those people just tuning in, or those people who have just been listening to my blogs for a long time, or people who had watched my reviews on my previous channel that got deleted. I want to do an open, like, public sort of review thing. Let me explain this. Okay, we're doing Exile Saga next. If you've seen Exile Saga and you have an opinion about it, whether it be good or bad, I would like for you to send a message with a paragraph or two describing why you don't like Exile Saga, as well as, if you feel inclined to do this, a rating out of 10. I just thought it would be interesting to have a sort of more open-minded outlook, rather than having it just be, yeah, this is my opinion, yeah, this is how the show particularly is. It'd be more interesting if I gave my subscribers a heads up and said, hey, I'm going to be doing a review of this. So what do you think about that? That way I can integrate other people's opinions into my reviews and say, well, some people think this and some people think that. So if you have an opinion about Exile Saga, I would really like it if you could send it, and maybe it'll pop up in the video. Isn't that awesome of me? Yeah, I know. Alright, I'm signing out.